record the lecture. Everyone that you can access these recordings after, by tomorrow, you should be able to see the recording on our YouTube channel, and it's just the Rec Innovation Lab on YouTube. And welcome everyone. Welcome to the Rec, to San Diego Miramar College, and welcome to our presenters, Gwen and Gaby, who are speaking with us for the final workshop of the series, where we are discussing the soft skills that are needed to be successful in business. And I just want to say a big thank you to Gwen and Gaby. They've been just amazing presenters, so integral to the development of the Rec Innovation Lab. And I love the workshops. Everyone seems to love the workshops we give. A little bit about our presenters. Gaby, she has over 20 years been in learning, training, professional coaching, strategic management, and she is has a wealth of information that she can share on this topic. And Gwen, also a longtime strategic manager. She's global talent management at Hyatt Hotels. She is focused on talent development. She's really helped us with our development here at the Rec and our student founders development. So we appreciate their insight, and we can't wait to hear a little bit more about the topic today. So take it away, Gwen and Gaby. It's all you. And don't forget to unmute yourselves.
Well, that's the first. I was like looking everywhere for that on how to unmute myself. Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to be with you again here on another Monday evening. Tanya, thank you very much for the warm welcome, but it's absolutely our pleasure. And we enjoy so much connecting with this community and supporting in their development, and to work with such excited, eager students, adults, everybody is just a joy for us, and a learning journey for us as well. I will share that we do have one more workshop, Tanya, so you're not done with us yet.
Oh, sorry. It feels like the semester has just been going on and on. Oh,
I know.
The penultimate, not the ultimate.
We were talking about how December is approaching, but we do have one more workshop, and we'll share that information at the end of our presentation. So I will.
So one more chance for people to come to your workshops. That's good. That's good.
Yes. Okay. So Gaby, why don't you go ahead and kick us off, and yeah, let's get going.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us and starting your week with us. This has become like really the highlight of my weeks whenever we're here on Monday nights. So my husband kind of wants to do Monday night football. I prefer Mondays at the Rec. How's that? Yay. Anyways, thank you for joining us. And today we have an interesting topic, and we decided to call it working with others, because it seems like no matter what we do, we are always working with other people or around other people. So let's get the presentation going, and bear with me. I think
we see you. We see it. Don't worry. It looks great.
Okay, good. All right, perfect. So working with others. Here we go. Well, of course, this is Gwen and me, and we'll update these pictures soon, but welcome to Curls and Chardonnay. Pretty soon will be Curls and Cabernet, right?
Yeah.
All right, so working with others might look like this. It might look like this, or even like this. Sometimes it might even look like this, right? So what does working with others look like for you? And please feel free to unmute your microphone or type in the chat. We've given you some food for thought to get us started in the conversation today. What does working with others look like for you?
I feel like I'm more like those birds in the left corner.
Okay.
Why? Tell us why. What does that look like for you? What does that mean to you?
For the most part, I enjoy working with others, and hopefully like when you guys get a good flow down, it's just smooth sailing. you just flocking together. So like those birds.
All right, excellent. What else?
Okay.
Who
And
else?
I see in the chat.
Kristen,
sorry.
and oh, someone's speaking. Sorry.
Sorry, for me, it would be like the chess pieces because people can be very unpredictable sometimes.
Mhm.
Good, great analogy.
That is very much so. We have Kristen in the chat that wrote collaboration. That's what working with others looks like for her. Savannah wrote the picture of the men working out because they are all working to achieve a goal of interest. Yes, very well said, Savannah. And Alexandria said the sports team. So kind of that camaraderie, it sounds like. All right. Anyone else?
Well, I don't know. This isn't quite the question you were asking, but I can tell you which of the photos doesn't look like what I think of when I think of working together. And maybe that'll shed some insight. But and I don't mean to contradict the previous answer, but the working out together seems to me to be not what I would think of as working together, only because they're so siloed, even though they're doing the same thing. They're not working together in my mind. It's an interesting, they're working together in proximity and they're all doing a similar thing, but one's actions don't beget or support or potentially slow down the actions of anyone else involved. So for me, I would define that as a different kind of working together. And I wouldn't define that as how I think of when I think of working together. So that's my 2 cents.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. That's a great insight. And one of the things that the reason we want to start a conversation like this today precisely is because of that. The situations that we have in some of the pictures are actual situations. They're real. And there might be many others, right? There might be many other inspiring images that might resemble or represent what working with others or working with teams looks like. Now, make note that the question was, what does working with others, right? We hadn't mentioned teams or collaboration or anything like that, yet we all get a little bit to that conclusion of, yeah, working with others in essence is collaboration, is teamwork, is going in the right direction. And even though it might not always look like that, these are just some evoking pictures that represent how working with others in reality can happen. And one moment or another, and it might not be that all the time, this picture represents my team or my organization or how I work with others. But once in a while, there might be essence of all of these in what we do and how we relate to others. And that's why we really want to share today a few ideas on how do we then work effectively together.
Yes. We have also in the chat, Rhonda, we have, excuse me, I missed one here. Matthew, who said, for me, this chat thing, the top left corner is ideal because when your team succeeds, you succeed also. And Rhonda said, the blindfolded men really struck a chord with me. Blindfolded or hands tied, same thing. Rhonda, I see that you've unmuted. Can you share with us about that?
Well, I am I'm a yoga teacher and I work with a nonprofit organization, and it seems as though all the suggestions that we the teachers make to the board just seem to fall on deaf ears. It's kind of like, kind of growing this program that is a service to the community seems to be so difficult, and I can't really understand why. And so it makes me feel like I don't, I need to be somewhere where my suggestions and my desire to help the community is like respected and heard. And so that just was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is exactly how I feel right now. And I'm a contractor. I'm free to do exactly what I want, but also want to be, in service to the community. That's a big thing for me. So anyways.
Yeah.
So working with people, an entire board, maybe one or two of those people are actual yoga teachers, which is bizarre to me. But anyways, so
Rhonda, I think that's a great example. And I think there's a lot of elements that we are going to discuss throughout this workshop about how you said that you wanted to feel, heard, you want to feel respected, kind of working towards a similar goal. So I think it's a great example. And I think we can bring that up as we go along in the workshop. So thank you for sharing that.
great. Thank you.
Absolutely. And the additional question for here is, one question is, what does working with others look like for you? The additional question, the next, Gwen and I, we're always going to kind of drill up or down as much as we can. The next level of question also is, what do you want to, wait, let me think about it. What would you like it to look like? One thing is, what does it look like for you? And the other one is, what do you want it to look like? Which is a little bit different, right? So when we see these images, that one also always grabs my attention. And I always include it in this particular slideshow because oftentimes we either play that role or we're putting to that role of being blindfolded and we're not sure where we're going. So that's a very powerful image. And as Gwen said, we're going to digest this conversation a little bit more. Fabulous.
All right. Thank you for the rich dialogue. We're going to continue on. And for our conversation today, when we think of working with others, for Gaby and myself, it is collaboration. So we are going to focus on working with others around collaboration, for collaboration. So I want you to look at the quotes that are here on this slide. And I want you to think of the last time that you had to work with someone, whether it was a meeting, maybe it's a meeting that you had earlier today, or maybe you're working on a project. Just think about that. Really envision that. I want you to envision who was there. What was the topic? What were you working on? Was it just one person? Were there a group of people? What was the goal? What was the purpose of why you were working with these other people? So take a moment to envision that for yourself. Whether it was today, this weekend, whatever it may have been. It doesn't necessarily have to be professional, because this applies to both personal and professional instances of working with others. Now I want you to look at these quotes that we have here, these thought bubbles, right? So we have, I totally disagree, but it would be rude to say it. That's a thought that you can have when working with others. Or you can think, my idea is silly. Let's say you think your idea is silly, right? Another thought is, asking this question will make me look dumb. Or final, I don't know the answer, but they can't know this. So what I would like to know is, how many of you can relate to these quotes? How many of you have had these thoughts before when working with others? Whether it was in a meeting or something that scenario that you were just envisioning for yourself. Can you let us know? And you can use even the reaction bubbles, the reaction buttons, and you can put a thumbs up if you've ever been able to relate. If you want to unmute and share, if you want to put it in the chat. But I'd like to know who's had these thoughts before, and I'll absolutely raise my hand that I have.
I know.
Oh, you can go.
Oh, thanks.
Elizabeth.
I was just gonna say, I literally said, hey, this is silly, but X, Y, and Z, and for some reason there's like over apologizing. I'll start by saying I'm sorry, but A, B, and C. But I can definitely relate to that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Elizabeth.
Are we sharing examples? Oh, wait, Jacoby had let the woman go first, so it's his turn. Oh.
Yeah, all right. Okay, you can go right after Tommy. But yeah, I think that asking this question would make me look dumb and my idea is silly. Those are kind of similar. But I feel like most people can say they felt all four of these. I know I have. It just I would say like asking this question make me look dumb. Like I feel like that's something that crosses my mind every so often. But I know for myself, like you're not gonna if you don't know it, like you not asking the question, it's not gonna make you understand what's going on. So like I feel like you gotta just look dumb sometimes, like, well, look dumb. Some people don't really care, but like you might feel like you're looking dumb, but really it's just getting a better understanding.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing, Jacoby. We're going to allow a couple more to share, and then we'll kind of just finish the discussion. Tommy, you wanted to share?
Yeah, well, I had a pretty hellacious experience like 2 weekends ago trying to play flag football, pick up flag football.
Mhm.
And exactly, well, I'll say first that usually these ideas don't go through my mind. I mean, I don't know if it's a disposition thing or something. Usually I'm not afraid to just say what I think will work. But that was a pretty bad experience because of the repeated negative responses I was getting. And
Mhm.
then I could feel those same exact questions kind of creep into my mind, particularly the one that it would be rude to say, because even when you're not trying to be rude, you're just trying to offer an idea, and the idea that can become confrontational,
Mhm.
that was creeping in. And also particularly the I don't know the answer, but they can't know this because sometimes you have a good idea, but you can't guarantee something. There's a part of it that's like, hey, let's just see. I know that this is definitely good. I don't know about this part, but it might work. Let's give it a shot. And then what happens is people become really hostile if you can't answer every single detail. And it's like, they can't know that I don't know this, this detail. So or else it'll, blow up in my face. So just had this experience. Again, doesn't happen to me that often, but happened to me recently. So I really empathize with those for whom it happens more often.
Yeah. Great. Thank you
Sure.
for sharing. And I was going to say, Tommy, you mentioned right now at the end, it doesn't happen that often, but I'm sure in the event of a flag football game, whether it's for fun or it is, the competitiveness, that's the time when you want to work together the best because you all want to win, right? You want to win the game. So it doesn't necessarily, it's a matter of when it shows up. Is it inhibiting your ability to collaborate? Is it inhibiting your ability to work together for whatever the purpose of that working together may be? If it's to complete something, to further a project, to win something, whatever it may be, right? There was a lot of really good examples brought up, and thank you for sharing. I see Alexandria, you have your hand raised. I don't know if you wanted to speak.
Go. Hi, sorry. Yeah, because I don't know if anybody, because I usually, I don't mind asking, I guess, stupid questions, right? But lately I've been trying to get this promotion, and I'm kind of on the board with a couple other employees. So I've been questioning every single thing that I have to say, and it's interesting, right? Like, you think that you could be a little bit more confident, or even if you know the answer, you're pretty confident you know it. At the end of the day, sometimes it'll get to you anyway. Yeah. But
Yeah. So I hear, thank you for sharing that, Alexandria. I hear also a lot of, and I will tell you, there's times, right, when Gabby and myself were talking about this earlier, let's kind of flip it. So we're talking about both scenarios, right? When you come in and you are in a meeting and they're talking about something and you may not know or understand everything they're talking about, or maybe you're intimidated by the group that you're working with or presenting to, right? But let's flip it to other times when you join a meeting and let's say, or you're working with others, and let's say you think you know everything, right? You think you also, and in knowing everything, you may feel that you are right. There is this continued battle between, and Tommy was sharing it when he was talking also about with the flag football, that he couldn't guarantee he was going to be right, right? That he couldn't promise that he was going to be. So there is this constant need to be right, which can sometimes hinder the ability for you to work together with a group, right? Because you may not be right, but you won't know. And maybe part of what you share can be brought together with what others question or share and such, so that you can work towards whatever the goal is. So all of these things in an essence can kind of hinder your ability to collaborate together. I want to ask, oh, Mariella, I see that you have your hand up as well. Did you want to ask a question or share something? Mariella, you're unmuted, but we can't, are you speaking? We cannot hear you. Okay, Mariella, if you are able to speak, just go ahead and unmute yourself and we'll have you share, but we'll continue moving forward. So to keep going with this about the theme around collaboration and these barriers that we have, I want to know, so the scenario that you were thinking about when you've thought of these things, how did you feel when you walked away? After that, whatever it was, if it was a meeting or if it was something in person, a game, like Tommy was describing or something, when you felt these things, and let's say maybe you had a question or you didn't know something, how did you feel when you walked away after that encounter?
And you know, as always, these are just a few examples of some of those thoughts. There might be others, right? There might be others that are similar in nature, where it's just, you know, we jump into judgment, for example, or into like a negative aspect of not liking what somebody is saying and things like that. So we have these 4 examples on the screen, but they're not the only examples. Our idea is to, okay, when we're in this setting of working with others, what happens in our mind and why do we go there, which is the next thing we want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Kristen said you felt unsettled walking away from that. We'll see if we have anybody else who shares, but yes, thank you for sharing, Kristen. So yes, when you walk away, sometimes you may feel unsettled. You may feel frustrated. You may feel confused. You may feel, oh, Tommy shared, I was furious, but also dejected. My motivation was zapped. Yes, absolutely, right? Maybe you disagreed with something that was said and all you can focus on is how you didn't agree with what was said. You feel everything, but in your focus on all these emotions instead of being focused on the work, right? So see how that is a barrier to collaboration. And that's what we're really looking to work through and to understand how we can get past these things, and so that we're not blocking ourselves also, because in essence we are, when we're walking away from meetings and we're not practicing in these behaviors that help us work better with others, we could also be blocking ourselves by being so focused on the emotions. And remember, if you remember from our other courses that we had, the first one of this series where we talk about emotions into action, there's a level of managing those emotions that support us in working and expressing ourselves to others. So let's keep going to how do we move past those barriers towards collaboration? And so what I want to share with you from this and looking, right, we want to move towards collaboration like the images that you see here. So in 2016, Google studied 108 teams that thrive, that performed very well, to understand why some thrive and others don't. So they studied a combination of teams, and they found out that teams capable of creating a trusting and respectful environment were more likely to use the power of diversity, bring in revenue twice as much, and they were rated much more effective by their leaders. And this further supported in other work that's been done over and over again around creating a trustful and respectful environment. So ultimately what this is saying is that when you set the right conditions for collaboration, people will usually ask more questions and admit when they don't know or understand something. And a lot of what we just talked about previous in the examples that were provided from everyone really stemmed around those themes of asking, understanding, and admitting when you don't know something. So we have 3 main points around this that we want to further discuss with you that helps in creating that trusting and respectful environment to allow for collaboration. Next slide. Here we are. So these are the essential collaboration behaviors. So you want to, and Gabby, please chime in. We're going to go through each one. So you want to be open and you want to be willing to learn, right? So that once again is a management of the self in the sense of, remember I said earlier how when you go into a meeting and you think that you know everything, right? Oh, I have the most experience, I've done this many times and such, right? So there's a humility that has to be there, and openness also of being open to learn something. I'll say, for example, in this group at the beginning when we asked about with the pictures, right? You may have your idea of what collaboration looks like, and everybody here had something different. So when you're interacting with others, understanding that people's perspectives may be distinct than yours.
Yes, and the questions that we have for you today is, yes, when we work with others, of course, there's the others' actions and then our role in that relationship, or in that, what we're calling today collaboration. And so we're starting to just, throw these questions at you, like what resonated with you first? Like what do you want to work with others to look like for you? And then Gwen walked us through some of the studies that have been done and some of the conditions that scientists and behavioral scientists have developed to foster great collaboration and great safety in working with others in general. So you've heard some of these terms before. Today we are kind of like combining them in 3 big buckets, right? And each one of these buckets has a lot of different elements. We're not going to list all of those for you. And our hope is that everything starts with me, right? What do I want to create? If I bring those behaviors in my interaction with others, chances are that I can also influence the others to work alongside me, right? So the first behavior is to be open, or learning. Like all of the studies had the 3 behaviors were learning, curiosity, and vulnerability. We translated it for us into actions, right? Be open or learn. And what does that really mean? What does that look like for you in a meeting, for example? Gwen, what does that look like for you?
For me, to be open and learn, well, I'll give an example, right? I'm going to give an example that encompasses all of them. Because I can't give an example of just one, right? I will say that recently, last week, I was in a meeting, and it's my first time designing an e-learning course, and I'm leading this project. And I was in a meeting with subject matter experts. There was instructional designers. There was, we love the word to use, stakeholders in the meeting as well. And everybody understood the language that they were using, looking at a design document that really was an outline of what's happening. And they kept using these words, and I had no idea what these words were. And so I just asked, and I said, I'm so sorry. I apologize in the beginning. And I think that's something important to note as well, because someone else mentioned that they apologized. So I'd like us to bring that up, because I think that's a good thing to explore. Not that it's good or it's bad. I just want to note it. I said, I'm sorry, this is my first time ever creating an e-learning, and I don't know what these terms mean. And if you could please let me know. And they explained it to me and stuff. So I was really open, I would say, to knowing that I don't know exactly all the lingo and the jargon. Jargon is a very popular way that people don't understand what's being communicated. I was curious to understand what those meant. And I was vulnerable in admitting that I didn't know, even though I was amongst a group where everybody did know what it meant. And so I had to, if we want to say look dumb, but I want to say that I didn't look dumb. I looked curious. I looked open to learning. I looked vulnerable. So I wanted to look.
You know what? That's a fabulous reframe, right? So these look simple enough. Like, yeah, be open, be curious, be vulnerable. We kind of do that almost every day, sometimes without knowing. The idea and the key with all of these workshops and all the human skills that we're sharing with you is like, where's my intention with this, right? Do I show up in the meeting already thinking I'm the smartest person in the room? Or I'm going to play dumb? By the way, I love the reframe. It's not dumb, it's being vulnerable. And although, well, yeah, never mind. And so what is the intention? Do I show up already thinking that I am the person that will be right, or that I am wrong, or that I don't know? Or, you know, the first time that I was working with a 500 company and everybody was like working with you know, putting rockets in space, and I go there and I'm going to talk about emotional intelligence, it's quite frightening, right? Like I stand up there and I'm like, man, what did you do yesterday? Oh, I just put a satellite in the moon. And I'm like, oh, I had lunch with my husband, you know? So I mean, think about it. All of these interactions can lead into some of the thoughts that we were talking about before. Like, oh my God, what am I going to show these, or, you know, these scientists, or, and then at the end, it's about, okay, I'm going to be open that maybe in the context of science, I have a lot to learn, but in the context of human interaction and emotional intelligence and all of that other, you know, piece, I am an expert and I can come and contribute to the conversation. So being open to learn and to share, right? And I might not be the person that knows it all ever. And, you know, that is when you're an instructor, when you're a facilitator, old school thinking was like, you need to be the expert. You need to know all of the answers. And the first time I wanted to look smart and gave the wrong answer, it backfired so much that I never did it again, right? Like, no, I'd rather just say, I don't know, versus giving you wrong information, for example. Curiosity is one that always sparks my curiosity to share, but because it's very, you know, how can we know, or how can we show curiosity? The idea here is, am I prepared to ask questions, and not just technical questions, but when I disagree with an idea, can I reframe my disagreement into a question? Right? Okay, I'm not really sure that I like what I'm hearing. What can I ask about it? Right? Is it just that I am not liking it, or am I not understanding it? Or I mean, chances sometimes, yes, I disagree. And if I disagree, what's behind that? So what's my curiosity to learn more about what the person's proposing, or my own, it could be my own thought process. It could be my own already like knowledge or story in my mind that's not letting me be curious about it. What is this other person really offering? And what do I have to offer and contribute in return? And last but not least, vulnerability. Really, this is the critical element. And I think it has become an incredible word, or a very popular word in the last few years, in terms of, yeah, let's be open. Let's be authentic is another word that sometimes we kind of align with vulnerability. I'm going to show myself and I'm going to be authentic. And there's a risk involved with that, right? There's a risk of the perception. There's a risk with, am I confident or competent, or which one of the two is playing in my mind? And how do I, you know, as I am vulnerable, can I accept other ideas? That's part of vulnerability too. Can I be open to learn? It's like this little, I mean, we probably should have done a circle, right? Because it's more like ongoing behaviors than separate. But the idea was like, you know, they're constantly feeding each other, and the critical piece behind them is, what's the intention? How do I show up?
Yeah. And I will share also with that vulnerability part, another part that makes it really hard is how is it going to be received by the other people around you, right? How have anyone ever been in a circumstance when you admit, oh, I don't know how to do this, and their response is, how do you not know how to do that? Right? How many times have you thought about that with somebody else? Like, how do they make it through life without knowing this, or in a certain way that they behave, right? So there's a judgment there that we fear, but we do it for others as well. I learned this weekend how to share my desktop on Zoom. And it was, I use Zoom so much, I share my screen so much, but it was like, why don't you know how to do that? And I was, you know, Gabby said it well earlier. There's this expectation that we put onto ourselves, right? About, I don't need to know how to do everything. And how can you create, remember we talked about collaboration, a trusting, respectful environment where people can admit and ask questions and honor when they don't know something, so that they're able to perform better work and have better relationships with others when doing it.
Yeah, and then just wrap up that particular exercise, when Gwen was sharing that with me, and she was like, "Can you believe that, this is the question?" I'm like, "Well, okay, fair enough. You were vulnerable and didn't know it." What's also interesting is, how do we ask, right? Because how could you not know this, even though it's a fair question? How could it be a better, more empowering question, right? Maybe, "Oh, really? I had no idea you didn't know that. Let me show you." It's very different. Like, "I can't believe you didn't know that," right? So it also,
And I think that comes back to,
is very important.
yeah, where we said to approach those scenarios as curious. So why doesn't this person know?
Right.
What, it's approaching it like that versus judging, and
Right.
then possibly making the person, saying it maybe even in a condescending, judgy tone, right? That's not what we want, because that's not going to, in that moment, you may be able to work past that, but you have to understand that that also sets the tone for future interactions, where the person is going to be less likely to ask questions or be vulnerable or be curious, because they'll fear that judgment.
Right. Or to go back to those, thought processes where you feel diminished instead of, grand or open to discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I feel like something that I've come to learn is just to be like very open-minded, because just like being around a lot of different people, some people, like, what's common sense to you is not common sense to everybody. And like how you're thinking, "Oh, this person does not do this," like they're dumb for not knowing that. There's something that you don't know that someone's thinking, "This guy is dumb for not knowing that." So like, we all live in our own like our own bubble of the world. Like we all live in our own bubbles. So like just think about before you judge someone about not knowing something, also know that there's something that you don't know that someone thinks that you're dumb for not knowing. So like, it's just about just having that understanding. I feel like that has helped me become more open-minded.
Yes, absolutely. Great point. Great perspective to have, Jacoby, to be more empathetic and understanding and compassionate with others. Yes, absolutely. All right, we're going to keep moving forward. We got time. We have a time limit, so let's keep going.
All right. So we have found that, in addition to what Jacoby was mentioning, we have also found, as we work with teams and with each other and in this community, and some of the feedback that you have given us, that one of the key pieces to be able to exercise these three behaviors consistently and have that intention to be open, to be curious, and to be vulnerable also stems from how much we know what's inside us, right? And you've heard Gwen and I talk about strengths and talents, and how when we play to our strengths, the more we know that, the better it is that we are in that position of being open, of being vulnerable, of being curious, because then that provides just our own authenticity to shine, and our talents and strengths to really take over and just be able to be in the moment and exercise these three behaviors. So remembering that, understanding my strengths and understanding my team's strengths, or the group of people that I work with strengths, really goes a long way to build collaboration and help us practice those three behaviors. And with that, so we want to do an exercise. You know that there's always a part of the workshop that's interactive, and then there's another part of self-reflection and self-learning. So I hope and I trust that everybody has at least a piece of paper and something to write with. So if you don't, we'll have like 3 seconds to get one.
Yeah, you can use anything. If you want to type it on your computer, on a document, you want to do it on a notepad, in your phone, whatever it may be, anything. Somewhere where you can document something.
So one of the most powerful exercises that a mentor of mine walked me through many years ago, and then there's been different iterations of it along my life, is one, that we worked with like assessments and things like that tell you what your strengths are, but this is a particularly intimate, powerful exercise to do for yourself. So we're not going to share out loud unless you guys feel compelled to do so. But we wanted to get you started with this list. And the prompt is on the screen, is on that piece of paper that you have or writing element, your computer, whatever you're using, type a list or write a list of every word that is part of your identity. Every word that is part of your identity. And the prompt for writing is I am ... And then just fill it. We're going to spend maybe 30-40 seconds for you individually to do that. Write it down, as many words as you can think to describe your identity. And I'll tell you what we're doing with that next. So I'll be quiet for about 30 seconds.
Yes. Maybe I'll find a little piece of music to put in the background if I can open this fast enough. We found music, but I feel like it's a little late, so
We can spend 20 more seconds if you really want to play your music.
no, it's okay.
No,
It's
I was,
Roscoe's classical list. I just love it.
I was wondering what kind of music you were going to choose. I was
Yeah, I have.
Wow,
I'll play one song for you. Here we go. You can hear a little bit of it. Let's see if you can recognize what it is.
yeah.
All right, that's enough. We have a workshop to do.
we're gonna start dancing here.
What was it? What was the song? Unless
It was-
anybody else knew it.
Jacoby, do you know what it is? You put This Is the Jam.
Eureka, but it was like a orchestra version or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a classical version. Absolutely. Yes. Great. Okay, let's keep going. We're almost out of time.
We're having too much fun. Okay, so all right, so we hope that you come up with a good start of your list and keep it going. Here's your homework, or homework for all of us. I got like 10 words down just in these 30 seconds, and I noticed there's a trend in my words, so I need to kind of like think about that. But no matter what it is, that's not the exercise. The idea is when you look at this list of words that are part of your identity, the powerful part of this piece is next time you're going to work with others, or next time you're interacting with others and have a team meeting or a vendor meeting or a investor meeting, go over that list and start seeing which of these traits, which of these, descriptions of your identity shine through almost there all the time, and which ones might you be like living in the background or intentionally living out or suppressing. Because the more you do this exercise, the more you will learn, okay, what is my intention? How can I get rid of that story in my head? A lot of those thoughts that we share at the beginning, the 4 examples, we didn't share all of the thoughts that might happen, but the 4 examples might be driven by this, right? I know that at the beginning, when I first came to this country, I rarely spoke because I was so afraid that I would know the right pronunciation of a word. I still don't know the right pronunciation of most words, but I would stay quiet. So, go through your list and see how that informs your interaction with others and how that impacts the 3 behaviors that we talked about. That's homework.
Yes, absolutely. And just to, for the next slide, and to dive into that a little bit more, when working with others, there are 2 particular ways that we want to, it's one particular way to really do some self-reflection and really understand where you thrive, right? Remember, we're focused on strengths. So you may do either, but which one do you thrive in most? And so if we could launch the poll. We have a quick poll for you. It is simply to ask you about where you thrive which one of these two you thrive most when working with others. So
Angela, do you have that poll up and ready?
Actually, I don't have that up in front of me. It's the last poll, Tanya, if
Let's see if I can do this.
you can see on there.
Is the name of it, was it networking? Working with others, found it.
There it is. Thank you.
Right, so I can.
okay, great. So our poll here is, when working with others, in which role do you thrive? So just choose.
Can everybody see the poll?
We're viewing the results, so I don't think you can select. Can anybody select?
Okay, so
That's the results, I think.
okay, so
Yeah.
let me go back. I don't know why that happened.
Here we go.
Just relaunch.
Okay. So now we launch. Thank you. So the options are, you thrive at coming up with ideas and options, or at making decisions. So just select which one and hit submit. We're going to give it about 10 more seconds, and then we'll look at it and talk a little bit. I'll explain it quickly. All right, if we could close the poll and share the results real quick, please. All right, so we have 82% of people from this group that thrive at coming up with ideas and options, and then we have 18% that are good at making decisions. So imagine if it was just us, a group of people, and I will say, right, and Tommy, great point, makes sense in a group of entrepreneurs, right? I will say I've selected coming up with ideas and options, and I know that part of myself. I put in my list of I am creative. I am a thinker, right? I love to ideate, all these things. So for me, I know that when I'm working on a project or I'm going to work with others, I want to bring those around me that are going to help in all parts of the process of the project. So whether it's for something that I have to do for myself or we're doing it in a team, right? I want to be with someone who's good at making decisions because I know that they thrive in doing that, right? So this is just an example of demonstrating the uniqueness that all of us bring, and we don't all want to be the same. And this is one part of that people will bring when collaborating with others. So this is just the start of viewing others as to what strengths they may have and what they can bring to the dynamic and collaborating together. So we'll continue on. Gabby, if you just want to close it up with this last slide where we bring everything together.
Yes, so as we bring it all together, you have seen that we have focused each one of our series in a very specific human skill or soft skill. So everything really starts with me or with you. And when we talk about working with others and we talk about collaboration, all of these elements, as we were designing what part of collaboration do we want to share with the group today, Gwen and I were saying, well, it's like a little bit of everything that we have been talking about and that we will talk in the future has to do with that, right? So we started the series this semester with emotions into actions, and that has to do with when we think about collaboration, it's about how do we have important conversations, ask powerful questions, and we move from the emotion into the action of being curious, being open, being vulnerable. Aligning the team is something that we didn't talk about in this series, but we have in the past, and it has to do with how do we align the vision, how do we create purpose, how do we put our heads together and then move forward. Even last one, when we talked about decisions, when we use the different hats, how does that foster communication and richer conversations? Having diverse perspectives and strengths. You have heard us talking a lot about the uniqueness that we bring, the unique contribution that each one of us brings to the team, brings with, to our conversations and working with others. The power of conflict, we talk about in creative decision-making and in creative collaboration, we talk about conflict and tension being used in a way that produces more effectiveness, that produces more like deeper results and deeper conversations. And of course, well, last but not least, facilitating change, which has to do with adapting, again, being vulnerable and being curious, and learning what is the best that will serve others, and then in return it will serve myself as I work with a team and with other people. What else do you want to add, Gwen?
Nothing. I think we can just add that the facilitating change is our final workshop that we will be hosting. So that one is coming. It will be in early December. We have a slide coming with information around that. But know that all of these workshops that we share, that we present, aren't necessarily independent. They all work together in driving the development, the knowledge, and the skill building for you to collaborate with others, to be a leader. And so we want you to start looking at them holistically and see how there's always themes of each one that we talk as we continue to share more and more with you. So there's value. If you haven't seen one of them, you can always go back to the YouTube channel and view those, but they all support each other.
And as always, when we spend this time with you, it's like the tip of the iceberg of the conversation. So if you have more questions, more comments, and want to expand the conversation, send us an email, send us a message, and we'll be happy to share in or give you more resources. And today we wanted to leave you not with a quote, but with a visual quote.
Mm-hmm. And just see how sometimes if we are able to better acknowledge the power of collaboration, fantastic things can happen. When I say fantastic things, as a fan of fish and chips, that is a fantastic thing. I love them. They're so good.
I agree 100%. All right. Well, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Gaby and Gwen. Also, everyone, I dropped a survey in the chat, so you can take just do a survey for this workshop. Also, if you want to rewatch this workshop we just had, there's also the link there too, and you can also register for future workshops. And so all this is in the chat right now. I dropped all the links, so go ahead and click those and check them out. Thank you.
Thanks, Jacoby, and thanks everyone. If you have any questions, we'll stick around for a little bit longer. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next workshop. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.